Hey everyone, Mike Chaffee here. We're live. Mike Chaffee from Tire Talent. We're going to present our 2024 tire industry employment trends. We're going to give everyone a minute to join. I will minimize myself, see if we could keep me in a little box here for a moment. We're going to ask a fun question while we're waiting for everyone to join. 77% of people are afraid of job loss in 2024, according to a recent Forbes poll. So, again, why are 77% of people that took this poll afraid for their job to be lost? The reason is AI. So I just gave this presentation probably about 20 times over the past couple months, and only one person got the answer right. So if you got the answer right, kudos to you. Most people said the election and the economy. I think economy was number one, followed by the election. And tonight, just a reminder, we have our first presidential debate. All right. So who am I? I am Mike Chaffee. I'm an executive recruiter and founder for Tire Talent. We're celebrating our 10th year in business coming up not too long from now. I have 20 years in the automotive, rubber, and manufacturing space. You also may have seen some of the articles that I write for Tire Business. I am their in-house writer for talent and HR topics when it comes to hiring and different topics that are in our industry around the talent space. So the agenda for today, I'm going to hide myself for now, but I am still here. The agenda is we're going to go over macro employment data. So this comes straight from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, followed by what they publish for the tire industry specifically. Then we run our own survey. Our own survey you may have seen and featured in tirebusiness.com, our website, our email blast, etc., that we ran earlier in the year. We're going to publish everything now. And then the last slide is opportunities. So for the next 20, 30 minutes, we'll run through this deck. I am more than happy to follow up on anything, send you this deck, and answer any questions that you may have and be a resource for you, whether you're a client or not. If you're a hiring manager, you'll definitely have some takeaways that'll help you in 2024 and beyond for attracting and retaining top talent in our industry. So, jumping right into it, macro employment overview. So I always like to first start with explaining what is the labor force or the workforce. I think we see and hear this term all the time: CNN, Fox News, whatever your choice is, MSNBC, CNBC, whatever your website is. We hear this term on a monthly basis: the labor force. Employment plus unemployed equals the labor force. That's the calculation. The number of unemployed divided by the labor force is the unemployment rate. Now that we understand the definition, we're going to do a 20-year look back on the unemployment rate. So the past 20 years, you'll see there's three gray bars. This one's covered up in the end. That's COVID. Those gray bars are actual recession. So what happens during a recession? The unemployment rate goes up. Our current unemployment rate is 4.0%. During the peak of COVID, we were at 14.7%. And year over year, we are higher than last year. We're higher than pre-COVID. So we're currently at a 4%, and in May 2019, we were at 3.6%. So if you think that the uh, employment market is loosening up in terms of available talent, you're probably right. The data is now reflecting this. And now we're going to take a look at the labor force in absolute terms. So there's currently 167.6 million individuals in the United States willing to work, or they're unemployed, but they're in that calculation that we went over before. We are higher year over year. So May 2024 over May 2023. There's a 0.54% increase. Also, versus pre COVID, of this about 5 year, 4 year look back, you'll see that we're higher as well. So we're headed in the right direction. But we have to keep in mind that our population has also grown. So if we look at now the participation rate, the we are actually at a pretty much a wash versus year over year, 62.5% versus 62.6%. year over year. So we're down a touch. But more importantly, if we look at pre-COVID, this January 2020 level, we were well above 63%. So another way to think about this is if we had the same participation rate as we did in February 2020 today, there'd be 2.1 million more Americans in our workforce. So when I think about this stat, I think it's pretty powerful. A lot of times I'm on the phone with plant managers, VPs of HR, COO, and they're struggling to get warehouse teams filled with lower turnover than normal. They're still obviously in a better spot than post COVID, but they're still struggling to really hit that full employment mark on their team. And I think this could be one of the drivers, right? When we think about our labor force participation rate, we're still down. We still have a ways to go where we should be. The next few slides, we're just going to look at the unemployment numbers by state. This deck or presentation is completely available to you after this live stream. I'm more than happy to email it to you. You could download it from our website. It should be up there. If it's not, it'll be up there in the next couple days, or hopefully by the end of the week. But you'll see at the bottom my email. More than happy to email it to you after. So the highest unemployment rate states are California, Nevada, Illinois, Washington, New Jersey, Kentucky, and Alaska, followed by the lowest North Dakota, South Dakota, Vermont, Nebraska, Maryland, New Hampshire, and Minnesota. When we think about the lowest to highest, you have it all one here in one shot, so you can refer back to it at a later point if need be. And then these are the biggest movers. So the top 10 movers in terms of unemployment on the left, and the top movers in decrease year over year on the right. So if you're in one of these states and you're struggling, or you feel like you're having an easier job finding talent this year versus last, the data is reflecting that. Jumping into our next slide, we're going to look at yearly job openings in the United States. So the blue line is the job openings total count. This is calculated by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, simply from my understanding of researching, by scraping what's available online from various job websites and making sure that they're unique in the sense that they're not double counting, and they come up with this number. The gray bars again are those recessions. So you'll see post COVID, we actually hit a number well above 12 million in this calculation. We've come down quite a bit, down to 8.5 million job openings. The takeaway, though, of this slide is at the bottom. We currently have 6.5 million unemployed people and 8.5 million job openings. So, how is that possible if these people are looking for work because they're still calculated as part of our labor force? I think in all of our research, the main one that we find is a skills gap. There's various other reasons why, I'm sure, but a skills gap is probably one of the main ones of why we still see this with such a large number of job openings. Jumping into the next slide, CPI. CPI is something we also hear quite a bit about in the news in terms of the inflation rate, higher cost of living, et cetera, the way it's calculated. Some people really don't like it. But that aside, I think we could all agree that it's more expensive to live today than it was a couple years ago or the past 12 months. So, an example I've given recently is my daughter likes to eat organic bananas and raspberries, and she's going to be 5 years old, and the price has gone up quite a bit. I recall going to the store and being able to buy these bananas and organic raspberries for under $10, and I feel like the price has doubled. So why is this important? It's important to note this for our employees within our industry. They are feeling the pain in terms of penny pinching just to live day by day, potentially, right? This doesn't impact everyone as much as others. So that being said, from a retention standpoint, we need to understand that costs have risen for our employees just to simply live day to day and get to work. And we need to understand that and make sure that we're taking that into account when we're looking at annual comp plans. Next slide, we're going to look at tire specific data that the BLS gives us. This is looking at gender, and the calculation is auto parts, accessories, and tire stores. So it's not just tires. Major takeaway here is that women's growth are outpacing men. There is some delay in the data, and this is good from a diversity standpoint. When looking at women employment over time, you could see the absolute growth as well here. And we're also taking a look at 5-year employment in tire manufacturing. You can see relatively up and down, but flat, various different plants opening and closing all throughout the United States, driving this trend. Now we're going to take a look at our tire industry employee survey results for 2024. Everything I've shown thus far is straight from the BLS. This is a little bit more biased because there was only 272 polled, and the way that we ask questions, right? We could all think of them a little bit differently. It was just a quick, short poll, small sample size, but I think very relevant given that it was only tire industry professionals. And again, I'm going to move through this pretty quickly because this will be available to you after this live stream. So this is going over the makeup or demographic that took the survey. Manufacturer, wholesale, and retail were the top three. In terms of what department these folks work in, sales, ops, and marketing being the highest. And in terms of the current title level, manager, director, coordinator being the highest. Next slide will show us the breakup of how big these companies were, pretty well spread out. And then we ask if you currently work remote. More than 70% were remote or hybrid. How long have you been with your current company? Is flexibility more important than comp for you in 2024? Pretty split. Do you have a variable salary structure? And if so, what percentage of your total comp is variable? Again, pretty widespread. The fact that most of the folks that took this are in sales, um, most would have some sort of variable comp structure. May not be relevant for the different types of roles that you work in or you're working on. Do you feel that salary is keeping up with inflation? I thought this was pretty positive, even though it was split. The reason being is because inflation is out seems to always be outpacing expectations. Are you satisfied with your current base salary? Again, pretty mixed. A little bit less than half agreed. But being that most were sales, most sales folks are never happy as a joke, but it's usually sometimes true, right? In terms of their comp. Which of these benefits do you currently have? So again, got to be relevant in terms of the role that you're working on, whether or not this benefit even makes sense to offer. Example, company car, but it's good to note what other companies are offering. We pretty much know the spread of the tire industry in terms of comp plans, et cetera. So we also have a compensation analysis report. More than happy to share that with anyone or do some deep digging on a specific role. If you're having trouble filling it, could be comp related. Don't have to be a client for us to answer why if it's not in range or not. More than happy to take a look at your role. Um, so in terms of this question, we asked this question because how accurately the hiring process reflects the company's environment, culture, and work upon your actual employment experience. Because a lot of times when we get candidates call us and they want to leave their company, this is one of the main reasons why, right? So 6.1 to me is a touch low, and it's something I think that our industry could correct. Do you feel that your company listens to you and values your opinions? More than half were neutral and agree, so I think that's good. What matters the most to you as an employee? So in this slide, the person answering was only allowed to pick one, and that's competitive wages. Do the leaders live the values of the organization? 6.5 was the average. Does your job have well-defined, concise, and clear goals and objectives? Again, to me, a bit low, 6.2 out of 10. something that seems pretty straightforward to me to do. Do you feel you can grow within your current company? More than half agree, and 29% were neutral. So this is a positive in my mind. Do you have concerns about AI and your job security? And 4.3 was the average, so much lower than that Forbes poll that I first gave of 77%. So most people that took this survey are not afraid of AI and losing their job. This next slide is choose one word, and you could have typed here of why you stay with your current company: loyalty, flexibility, pay, age, stability, and culture. And that's the end of the survey. And now we're going to jump into the last slide. More than happy to jump on a one-on-one with you and discuss any of these or any of the points that I raised. Happy to answer anything via email. So bullet number one, candidates value remote. Some companies struggling with remote acceptance. I still see this today. Some really tough positions. The companies are unwilling to change, but they're competing against companies that are allowing 100% or hybrid at the very least. So, if you're struggling for a non-remote position and your local market or your competitors are allowing remote, we need to take this into account. Next bullet: talent market is calmer but still candidate driven. What we're saying here is from a COVID perspective, right? The market's definitely calmer than post-COVID. However, it's still candidate driven. I think it's always candidate driven when we want what I define as A players, these folks that really move the needle for us. And I'm going to pop back up here and really drive the ball forward. Um, it's still candidate driven. AI is coming, so from a talent HR perspective, tons of very cool new tools. Unfortunately, right now, I think it's creating more noise in our space in recruiting, making it a lot easier for recruiting firms to automate outreach, et cetera, et cetera. And it's getting smarter and smarter, taking the human experience away. And this automation is creating more noise. However, there's a lot of amazing benefits coming. Like our team always is using ChatGPT, OpenAI, to enhance job descriptions and use as our own personal executive assistant on helping us think through problems and come up with some ideas that maybe we weren't able to. I'm sure you're hearing consistently about that in your day to day as well. Short, transparent hiring process is winning is the next bullet. What we're saying here is the more transparent you could be, the expectation of a candidate and the process that they'll be going through and making sure that you're communicating that, those are the companies that are winning. The companies that are really dragging out a process, uh, almost ghosting candidates and then coming back weeks later with next steps, those are the companies that are losing versus the companies that are winning. Short, transparent hiring process. So let's just say, for example, you are hiring for a role. You should be able to say, there's 3 steps to the process: phone screen with HR, virtual with hiring manager, on site 3 hour with the actual panel. And then we're going to give an offer by the end of the following week. Just an example. Next bullet: get active and get outbound for hard roles. What we're saying here is hard roles require effort. LinkedIn and Indeed, they're not going to bring the A players. You may get lucky sometime, but your organization needs to figure out a strategy on how to execute and go outbound. We do outreach at least typically 8 to 10 times per prospective candidate to try and sell them on opportunities. Not saying you have to do it that many times like we do, but you need to figure out how to get outbound and how to implement the actual systems. Employee referrals. I mean, no one knows your company better than you, than your own employees. So if you're not compensating them, why aren't you? How are you not sharing this each time you have a role open and really pushing your internal team to give these referrals? Implement a structured hiring process. What we mean here is not all hiring managers know what they're asking on some of these interviews. So, does your company have a playbook on typical questions that they should be asking? What's the company's mission, vision? How are they actually framing the interview when they jump on? And how are they ending it versus going on different tangents and asking irrelevant questions? talking about baseball, football, etc. Sell then vet. What I'm saying here is a lot of candidates complain that they receive an experience where they feel that they are being prosecuted post interview with a company or a specific hiring manager. It's pretty easy to sell the opportunity, sell the mission, lay the table when you get on these calls or these interviews with the candidate. Get them excited to come work on your team, then vet them, then ask them the tough questions. But set the table, sell them, get them excited. A players are in a we're still in a candidate driven market. Second to last bullet, set up new hires for success. What does success look like? So 365 days from now, if we were to sit down and we were to say, how did Joe Smith do? And 1 year later, what are the 3 to 5 KPIs that they would have need to hit for you to say, heck yeah, Mike, they were super successful? You should be able to describe this with actual KPIs to this new hire. If you can't and you're having trouble, feel free to email me, mike@tiretalent.com. We're happy to help you out. Employee burnout and mental health is the last one. And I leave this for last because I think it's one of the most important. One of the core reasons why I get calls from leaders in our industry, I'm talking VPs, C suite, director level and above, is because post COVID, they have had the most amount of pressure put on them than most anyone else within our industry. The reason being is the turnover that happened underneath them, right? So if we think about it, they're doing more, much more on their plate. And that's it for today, folks. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me. My name is Mike Chaffee. I'm the founder of Tire Talent. My direct line is 904-289-8379. Email me anytime, mike@tiretalent.com. Thank you so much for joining me today. Happy to jump on a call, 904-289-8379. Hope you enjoyed today's presentation. Have a great rest of your day.